Nobody actually thinks about what habitable zone means, like actually means. You hear it and your brain files it under good news, Earth is fine, moving on. But here's what that phrase is actually describing. A band of space around the sun where temperatures are theoretically stable enough that liquid water could exist on a rocky planet's surface. And that band, this supposedly generous swath of space, is roughly 30 million kilometers wide, which sounds enormous until you realize Earth's entire orbital path around the sun stretches nearly 1 billion kilometers. So, the zone where life is even theoretically possible is about 3% of that path. 3%. And Earth is not just in it. Earth is sitting almost dead center, right in the middle, of a 3% window in a solar system that formed from collapsing gas and dust with no agenda whatsoever. And I cannot stress this enough, that is just where we start. Okay, so let's talk about water, because water is the part where things get personally unsettling. We know Earth has liquid water. We grew up with liquid water. It is so normal that we name the planet after its soil instead of its oceans, which, when you think about it, is genuinely wild because 71% of the surface is covered in seawater. But here's the thing about water that most people walk past without blinking. Ice floats. That's weird. That is physically bizarre. Almost every substance in existence becomes denser as it freezes and sinks to the bottom of its liquid form. Water does the opposite. Ice becomes less dense, rises to the surface, and forms an insulating layer that keeps the liquid beneath from freezing through. If water behaved like literally every other substance, every time Earth's oceans got cold enough to freeze at the surface, the ice would sink. The cold would propagate downward, and the entire ocean would eventually become a solid block. No liquid water beneath. No thermal cycling. No chemistry. Planetary scientists have actually modeled this. If water froze from the bottom up, early Earth may never have sustained liquid oceans long enough for the first self-replicating molecules to form. One molecular property. One. And it had to be exactly that way. But okay, the water thing is extraordinary fine. You could still, with a charitable squint, call it chemistry. What you cannot call chemistry is the fact that Earth is generating its own planetary force field, has been for at least 3.5 billion years, and we still don't fully understand why it stayed stable for that long. The magnetic field, right? Think about what this actually is. Earth's outer core is liquid iron and nickel, churning and convecting around a solid inner core, and that motion generates a magnetic field that extends tens of thousands of kilometers into space, far enough to deflect the continuous stream of charged particles the sun fires at us every single second. That stream, the solar wind, is not gentle. Look at Mars. Mars had a magnetic field once. Planetary scientists confirmed through NASA's MAVEN mission data that Mars's magnetic field collapsed somewhere between 3 and 4 billion years ago, and within a geologically short time after that, the solar wind stripped the Martian atmosphere down to roughly 1% of Earth's density. The surface went from potentially habitable to a frozen radiation-blasted desert. Same solar system, same sun, different magnetic field outcome. And here's the part that actually starts to feel personal. Earth's magnetic field hasn't just survived, it's flipped hundreds of times in its history, where north and south swap positions entirely. And during those transitions it weakened significantly, and the planet did not lose its atmosphere anyway. Researchers are still actively investigating why. The field is dynamic in ways that planetary scientists genuinely didn't predict, and it's still running right now on an engine of molten iron 4,000 kilometers below your feet. If you're still here and you haven't started Googling, why is everything about Earth so specific? Hit subscribe, because we go this deep every single week, and it only gets stranger. So let's talk about the moon, because the moon is a plot twist. Not metaphorically, literally. The leading scientific theory about how the moon formed is that a Mars-sized body called Theia collided with early Earth roughly 4.5 billion years ago, and the debris from that collision coalesced in orbit and formed the moon. A collision that probably should have been catastrophic and instead produced a moon that is, and I want you to sit with this, almost exactly the right size and distance to stabilize Earth's axial tilt to within a fairly narrow range. Earth's axis is currently tilted at about 23.5 degrees. That tilt is what gives us seasons. and it stays within a range of roughly 22 to 24.5 degrees over long timescales. That's stability. That's the moon. Planetary scientists calculated through orbital modeling that without the moon's gravitational stabilizing influence, Earth's axial tilt could swing chaotically anywhere from near zero to over 85 degrees on timescales of millions of years. At 85 degrees, the poles would point almost directly at the sun during summer and away from it during winter. You'd have equatorial zones that freeze solid for months and polar regions that bake. The climate model at that tilt is not uncomfortable, it's incompatible with complex ecosystems. And the thing that prevents this is a moon that formed from a random collision in exactly the right proportions, which somehow is not even the strangest part. The strangest part is that from Earth's surface, the moon appears almost exactly the same angular size as the sun. This is not physically necessary for any of the stabilization effects. It's not meaningful to the tides or the axial tilt or anything functional. It is pure geometry. The moon is 400 times smaller than the sun and about 400 times closer. This produces total solar eclipses where the moon fits almost perfectly over the solar disk, and it's so precise that the first scientists to measure it were briefly suspicious it was a measuring error. It's not a measuring error, it's just how it is, and I know that sounds like I'm stretching it, but that's the thing. I'm not stretching anything here. These are the actual numbers. Now, stack it. Orbital position in the center of the habitable zone. Water with the specific anomalous property that keeps oceans liquid through cold periods. A magnetic field running continuously on molten iron that has deflected billions of years of solar assault. A moon that formed from an improbable collision at exactly the mass and distance needed to lock the axial tilt into a stable, life-supporting range. And I haven't even mentioned plate tectonics. Look, plate tectonics is Earth's long-term carbon regulation system. The movement of tectonic plates drives volcanic activity, which releases carbon dioxide. And those same plates, when they subduct into the mantle, pull carbon-rich ocean sediment back underground. This cycle, running over hundreds of millions of years, acts as a planetary thermostat. NASA planetary comparison data confirms that neither Mars nor Venus has active plate tectonics. Venus, which is nearly Earth's twin in size, has a surface so geologically stalled that CO2 has accumulated in its atmosphere at levels that produce surface temperatures of 465 degrees Celsius. Earth has a living geological cycle that actively regulates its own atmospheric chemistry, and it has had it for at least 2.5 billion years, which is so long that if you compressed Earth's history into a single calendar year, that thermostat system has been running since approximately April. Here's what actually unsettles me most when I look at all of this together. It's not any single condition. It's that each condition had to be in place simultaneously, had to stay stable long enough for the previous condition's effects to compound, and had to interact with the others in ways that reinforced rather than canceled out. The stable orbit kept temperatures consistent enough for liquid water. The liquid water enabled the chemistry that eventually produced life. The life eventually modified the atmosphere to increase oxygen. The oxygenated atmosphere enabled complex multicellular organisms. The magnetic field protected the atmosphere through all of it. The moon kept the seasons stable enough for ecosystems to evolve across millions of years without being periodically wiped out by climate chaos. The plate tectonics regulated carbon throughout the whole process. Pull one piece, just one, and the cascade collapses. Before we finish, drop a comment and tell me which one of these hit you the hardest. I'm genuinely curious whether it's the water thing, the moon geometry, or the magnetic field, because people always have different answers, and I think that says something. But here's where I want to land. We are the thing that figured this out. The same planet that happened to be in the right location, with the right water chemistry, protected by the right magnetic field, stabilized by the right moon, regulated by the right geological system. That planet produced creatures who eventually built instruments sensitive enough to measure their own improbability. Scientists at NASA, at the European Space Agency, at research institutions all over the world spent careers developing the tools and the models and the mathematics to look back at Earth from the outside and calculate exactly how narrow all of these margins actually are. That is not a small thing. That is the universe using its most suspiciously optimized planet to become aware of just how suspiciously optimized it is. And honestly, I don't know what to do with that, except keep looking.